This is the most important lesson in my online art program. If you want to be able to draw or paint with accuracy, then you need this lesson. And I'm talking about anything from hands to candy bars to plants to aliens. This lesson will teach you to draw anything and everything. What I'm about to say is important. Everything is either a cardboard box or an ellipsis. I'll explain this very important skill set and show you my first practices using these ideas. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Jenny, and in this video, I'll be showing you the most important art lesson ever. And if you can master this skill, then you will be an amazing artist. You'll be able to take 3D objects and translate it to 2D space. And if you can't master it, then you could still be an amazing abstract artist or do that chain pulling method thing and still be a good artist. It's still legitimate, it's still art. But if you want to be able to capture realism and draw 3D shapes, then you'll want to practice this fundamental skill. I'm talking about plane shifts. A plane shift is where two planes meet, creating a corner or a point in the contour. Look at my finger. How many plane shifts do you see? You might see 1, 2, or 3. Or if I hold my finger like this, maybe 1, 2, or 1, 2, 3. But if you want to round out my knuckle, let's say, my knuckles are a bit more round, then you'll want to create a bunch of tiny little incremental planes. You'll want to create many teeny tiny planes that shift a fraction of a degree. Picture using animation. Animators often use 24 frames per second. You could use 12 frames per second or 24 frames per second. The more images, the more movement you create between the space, the smoother it will look. You could see animators play with this in the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and Puss in Boots. Here you could see this is 12 frames per second. And this is 24 frames per second. Drawing a rounded finger is a lot like that. You have to just create more planes. You can do 3, and that's a basic drawing, but you could also do a lot more. Learning how to identify these planes takes some practice, so no worries if you can't see it right away. Today, I will show you 2 charcoal drawings. In both, I use value and plane shifts. So the first picture is a setup of a cardboard box and a few items from around my house. After my first session of drawing, this is what my picture looked like. Now I filmed the second bit, and I'm gonna give you some commentary and critique on what it is I'm doing and what it is I want to do. It's still a work in progress. So sometimes I could really see what needs to be changed, but I don't quite have the skills to change it yet. But take a look at my first drawing. I am here completing my plane shift charcoal sketch. I've spent about 1 hour on it. It's kind of a pain in the ass to set up your setup again. I tried to get the lighting right. It's pretty difficult from the previous time. It's been about 2 months since I last worked on this. So far, I have added in some of the darker darks, the shadows. Some of the shadows, I reshaped the guitar before it was all kind of like squishy. I don't think I'll be able to reshape this. I think it's maybe a little too far in. I did a little bit down here, tried to get the neck, but I think the angle is just a little bit off. It should narrow in there, but it still looks funny. And right now I'm trying to add in some shadows, some texture to the ukulele. I'll try to add some lighting in the frets here. I'm also trying to just generally darken this fretboard. That might do it. I might try to get this box. There's a box under here. It kind of blended into the background. I want to try to get maybe the lighting here. This is kind of an odd angle. In real life, I don't really see that. I see actually the box sitting on like kind of more down. So now there's this whole triangle that doesn't exist and I don't know what to do with it. I'm using a medium. This is a medium charcoal. And I'm just kind of going through and lightly drawing a line down the guitar. And then I take my shading stump and I shade. For now, I'm gonna call this one finished. I'm just ready to move on, I think. Better than it was. The charcoal is a little bit different to work with, especially this kind of like square shape was a little bit harder to work with than what I expected. This charcoal, this willow charcoal, is very easy to work with. You could erase it pretty easily. And this blendie stump is also really easy to work with. This is kind of how you move around your charcoal and direct it to where you want. That takes some practice, knowing where to exactly to put your charcoal, where to lay it down and where to blend from. If you lay down too thick, then you have to really get rid of some of the lines, or you end up blending further and more than you wanted. So I realized, I think why my proportions are not right with this is when I was using the tool, you should pretend like there's a glass wall in front. Then when you measure, you want your arms straight out forward and you want to always stay on that. What I did is I kind of did tilts and things, so I was not always on the same plane. And so that's why my ukulele is pretty wonky, as well as this box down here is really wonky. Compared to my last edition of this, I added in like a dark area over here, and I tried to lighten up this because this is dark, this is light, so this should be dark. This is dark, so this should be light. I really like the texture that I gave it. I feel really good about this, but it also shows me I still have a long way to go with plane shifts and how important plane shifts are. Something that came to my attention recently is that I should be using maybe a fixative spray. I'm not sure if I should be using a notebook like this for all my drawings, so then I could spray this and it'll let it set. I forgot to mention the term for the contrast of light background against dark object, or dark object against light background. That is called chiaroscuro. It's an Italian word. Now my next drawing is a charcoal portrait. So this is my first time drawing a face. I don't have any background in how to draw parts of body, facial features. I don't have any experience in that. The only experience I'm going from is my knowledge of the value scale in plane shifts. That's it. So without rambling on too much, take a look at drawing number 2. Here I am, I'm setting up my drawing pad. I've gone ahead and put up an upper boundary, a lower boundary. This is just where my reference photo kind of lies. It's calibrated to my scale tool. In this portrait, this is the top of the forehead to the chin. So I've gone ahead and drawn a line there. It's not exact, it's not meant to be exact, just to kind of help me out. Now I'm gonna measure where the eyeball should sit, just the forehead size, I guess. So I'm gonna put a line here. Just do like a nice whoop. That's kind of like the top. The bottoms will be much lower. I'll put a bottom line to here. So this is my little window for my eyes. The shot is pretty dead on like this. There's not like a whole lot of angle or shift to the face. Now let's go ahead and measure the width of the face. Okay. So these are kind of like the cheekbones. eyebrows. Okay, that's my beginning sketch.
20 minutes later.
I basically blocked in the shapes a little bit more, and I tried to make sure I got the planes, like there's a nice triangle kind of plane on the cheek. Well, actually there's probably like a point there in like an axis kind of thing going on here. There's another plane this way on the lower cheek as it comes in, and this is kind of like a plate, this is a plate, and yeah, so that's kind of how I broke it down. I need to lighten up this side a bit more. What I do to lighten it up, I don't want to lose this line really, but it is still kind of a dark line that is maybe not necessary to be there, so I'm going to take my kneaded eraser and I'm going to erase, make it much more toned down. Now I don't want to lose this, so I'm going to blend that back down, and I don't want to have such a harsh line, so I'm going to try to pull down. I'm pulling down on that line because I want this up here to stay nice and white, so I'm going to pull this down and erase. I'm going to actually just go over it, but I'm going to pull down so that I don't get more charcoal on this part of the face. It's kind of difficult to get it to be where it is. Then I'm going to take my blending stuff and kind of redo the line there, so redefine the jaw so it's not gone. Things that I'm struggling with in this, the eyes. From here, the eyes look maybe a little funny. I can't get them to as white as I want them to be. I have tried to use this eraser. All my effort is futile. Also, I can't get rid of this line down the center. It's a little bit annoying. We'll call it a stress line or something. The other thing I'm realizing is I have no idea how to do hair. There are some hairs, so I'm gonna maybe like hairs, so maybe I'll do some like hair marks. They're all blonde, so that's why this is kind of a weird thing, and blend it out and see if it kind of looks like she has hair. This is my first time drawing a face. This is really good compared to my previous portrait, which was a stick person. Improvement? Yes, I do think so. Obviously this eye is much bigger. I need to make it smaller. This one is, it's alright, but I can't quite get the eye white here. And I'm also kind of struggling with the eyelids. I guess maybe I need to do like a darker line kind of above like this. Give a bit of a crease, and then I'll smudge that out. This one also, yeah, I'll just kind of smudge it. Ooh, that didn't work. That's all I'm going to do for now. I'll show you guys the end result in a picture and I will talk about it. So here's my final portrait. I think the hair actually came out alright. I don't have any experience with hair either, so I'm actually kind of pleased with how the hair looks in this. The lighting, I actually think I did pretty well for the lighting. You could at least tell where the light comes from. Now the eyes are very difficult. They're not the same size, they're not the same shape, but they are closer than they were before, and at least this lady doesn't look cross-eyed anymore. At least she doesn't look like she has a brain injury anymore. The nose is the most tricky thing. I didn't know how to do it. It looks a bit off-center to me, and I think maybe it needs to be angled just a little bit. I know earlier I did say that this portrait is pretty dead on, but there is like a slight angle to it, and that nose needed a slight angle. It also looks a little bit too turned up, a little bit pig snouty. Now the lips look like they're off-center, but in the picture she actually has her lips smushed to the side, so they should be a little bit sideways on her face, but I didn't capture the like texture of like kind of smushing your mouth. Now her lips just kind of look like they're off center. Overall, I do think it's a successful exercise in identifying plane shifts. In the future, I want to be more nuanced with the plane shifts. I want to add in more plane shifts because still it looks a little bit boxy, so I want to add in more to create smoother and rounder effects. But yeah, that's it. Those are my 2 charcoal pictures for the week using value scale and plane shifts. I would love to know your thoughts and where you're at in your art journey. Maybe you're an expert, or maybe you're a beginner like me. Either way, please share your insights or experiences in the comments below. It not only helps me, but it helps other artists who watch this video. Thanks for sticking around to the end. If you like this kind of art content, do subscribe so you can see more content just like this in the weeks to come. I'll see you in another video. Bye!